Welcome, age of vintage society. Marilyn Chambers, whose photograph as the mother of a newborn on a laundry soap package and whose performance as a fantasy-fulfilling wanton in an adult movie evoked stunningly contrasting portrayals of womanhood all around the world. How Marilyn Chambers became the pioneer of a new entertainment industry. Make sure to watch the video until the end and leave your thoughts in the comments. If you are new here, join our wonderful community by subscribing to the Age of Vintage channel. A simple way to achieve fame is to become known for two contrasting things. Good example, ivory snow model and adult film actress. Those were the tickets Marilyn Chambers punched in 1972 when the XXX rated dream drama Behind the Green Door was released. The press immediately noted that its star had been photographed on the box of a detergent whose motto was 99 and 44 out of 100 pure. This ironic factet made the blonde, willowy Chambers the industry's pin-up princess. When Procter & Gamble was casting about for an image of fresh-faced young lady to use on boxes of ivory snow laundry detergent in the early 1970s, they selected the now iconic photograph of Marilyn Chambers posing as a loving young mother holding a bright-eyed, adorable baby. That photo became synonymous with the much-touted purity of the product, a circumstance that proved ironically embarrassing for Procter & Gamble when they learned that the New York model, whose picture now represented their product, had since moved to San Francisco and turned her hand, and other assorted body parts, to the making of those kind of films. It's interesting to note how this tidbit about Marilyn Chambers and the ivory snow box is processed by those who come across it. Invariably those who remember Chambers being in the shot always cast her as the baby. It's the old innocence transformed into evil motif, a pretty girl in a soap ad 2 years later going on to star in an adult film doesn't provide nearly the moral shock factor of an adorable little baby growing up to follow that particular career path. When X-rated movies began to creep out of stag parties and storefront theatres into semi-respectable movie houses in the late 60s and early 70s, during the short-lived reign of Marilyn Chambers became one of the biggest and most bankable stars to emerge from the adult industry. What made her remarkable, however, was how Chambers was able to hold on to her popularity. In a business where few female stars can last 5 years in the spotlight, Chambers retained a loyal fan base following, which has kept her busy throughout a career that spanned 4 decades. Though a young lady in a dirty business, Chambers proved early on that she had a good head on her shoulders. She was smart enough to negotiate a contract that gave her 10% of the gross receipts for her films. This was back in the pre-VCR days, of course, when watching a skin flick didn't mean renting one from the local video store and viewing it in the privacy of one's bedroom, but making a trip to the local sticky-floored Pussycat Theatre. Based on estimates of the box office receipts for Green Door and The Resurrection of Eve, she earned more than $3 million in 2 years. Her life wasn't all skittles and beer, though. She went through a few divorces and battled drug and alcohol addiction before passing away at age 56 in 2009. The notoriety helped sustain her film career until, when she was found dead in her Santa Clarita, California home from a cerebral hemorrhage. Marilyn Chambers was born Marilyn Ann Briggs on 22nd of April 1952 in Providence, Rhode Island. She was born there but spent most of her childhood in Westport, CT. In her teens, Chambers became interested in acting and began looking for work as a model. After appearing in print ads for Clairol shampoo and Coca-Cola, a photo of Chambers holding a freshly diapered baby was chosen for use on boxes of ivory snow, a detergent. She was a 19-year-old aspiring model and actress who was making her living as a topless, bottomless dancer in San Francisco, where she was married briefly to a bagpiper who played on street corners for change. It was the age of being free, she says. Love, sex and happiness. I was just a hippie chick. That same year, Chambers landed her first film role, a small part in the Barbra Streisand vehicle, The Owl and the Pussycat, and an offer to be the girlfriend of a famous producer. He told me he'd make me a big star if I had no other boyfriends but him, she said. She refused. In search of worthy roles, the aspiring actress moved to Los Angeles and began to walk through endless castings. She believed in her star, but the directors were in no hurry to offer the debutante interesting roles. All she could count on was episodes in low-budget films that did not pretend to be on the big screen. Such options did not suit an ambitious girl. Like any aspiring actress, she dreamed of big money and fame, and she planned to achieve both of them as quickly as possible. Marilyn changed her modest surname to a sonorous pseudonym, planning to start a new, more successful life. In Hollywood, Chambers faced a brutal reality. There were much more ambitious and pretty starlets here than suitable roles. Even for the episodes there was fierce competition. Marilyn shone the career of a waitress or saleswoman, spending all her free time on endless and unsuccessful trials. Chronic lack of money also became a problem. The girl could not hope for the help of her parents. She also did not have a secured boyfriend. At times Marilyn fell into despair, but stubbornly believed in her star. Chambers' dream of a career in the cinema came true, but not in the usual way. The only interesting proposal was a role in an erotic film. For a career, this option was not ideal, but the young actress was offered an impressive fee, which she could not refuse. In 1971, Marilyn starred in the movie Together, teaming with Frank Scenes. The audience and directors appreciated the luxurious forms of the girl, her naturalness and immediacy. In addition, the girl also had acting talent. Marilyn quickly acquired fans, and offers from producers began to arrive almost monthly. Chambers, however, was disenchanted with the experience and was considering giving up acting when she answered an ad placed in a San Francisco newspaper by Jim Mitchell and his brother Artie Mitchell. Chambers soon discovered the Mitchell brothers were making an X-rated feature, but the adventurous Chambers agreed to give the role a shot, provided she was given a percentage of the profits along with a flat fee. She became an instant hit with her appearance in the 1972 classic Behind the Green Door, a film premiered at the Cannes Film Festival to a standing ovation, but from Behind the Green Door on, most of her on-screen work was in the adult film industry. Chambers' decision proved shrewd. 1972's Behind the Green Door became one of the biggest adult hits of the decade, with Chambers' silent but rabidly enthusiastic performance responsible for much of the film's notoriety. But the film brought something more in Chambers, an attractive young woman who had begun her career as a legitimate actress and model. She was also a smart businesswoman. When directors Jim and Artie Mitchell asked her to star in The Green Door, she demanded the then astronomical sum of $25,000 and a percentage of the gross. She got both. Today the film is a classic of its genre. It can be found in full view in the video racks of respectable households across the country, right alongside The Sound of Music. The secrets to its success are many. It had the high-quality production values of a feature film, rather than the hazy, bouncy look of a stag film made by two men taking turns with a handheld camera. It also had a plot, a dreamy, almost romantic fantasy of a fresh-faced innocent seduced, in stages, into various carnal delights. The turn-on was in its star's seduction, not in her acts. It was the thinking person's flick, and its star was perfect for the part. She looked like a girl who was experiencing these delights for the first time and, much to her surprise, was loving every minute of it. Marilyn Chambers was the first actress who looked as if she were really having a moment on screen. "Each sequence was a surprise to me," she said. "They never told me what was happening next. I just did it as it happened, and it worked. I've always been highly sexed. Oh my God, I love it. Insatiable is the right word for me. Even in my dance shows I get really hot. I want to spread my legs and give as much as I can. This is the perfect business for me. I love to give pleasure to men." Chambers also provided invaluable publicity for the film when it became known that she had been the Ivory Snow Girl. The manufacturer immediately replaced her picture on the box, but this semi-scandal made newspapers all across the country, boosting the film's box office in the process. In 1973, Chambers and the Mitchell brothers teamed up again for Resurrection of Eve, which proved to be another major success, and in 1975 Artie Mitchell produced a semi-documentary look at her career to date called Inside Marilyn Chambers, which would be the model for hundreds of similarly titled adult films to follow. After her follow-up, The Resurrection of Eve, was released, Marilyn decided she needed a personal manager to guide her career. So she called Chuck Traynor, an ex-Marine who was beginning to make a name for himself in circles as Linda Lovelace's manager and husband. When Traynor and Lovelace split up, Marilyn moved in with Chuck in Los Angeles, where he took over her career and eventually married her in 1974. Traynor decided that Marilyn shouldn't oversaturate the X-rated market, so he had her branch out. They formed Chambers Traynor Enterprises and moved to Las Vegas, where for the next 10 years Marilyn starred at nightclubs like Caesar's Palace, performing in straight plays such as The Last of the Red Hot Lovers, and occasionally made X-rated movies, Insatiable 1 and 2, though a total of only 5 in her career. Traynor became her lover and her manager, and one of his first tasks as the latter was to create the need for a product that didn't exist yet. During their 1975-1985 marriage, Chambers gave birth to a daughter, McKenna Marie Taylor. During this marriage she acquired an interest in motorcycling. Chambers and Traynor divorced in 1985, with Chambers accusing her ex-husband of physical and mental abuse, just as Linda Lovelace, his first wife, had. The career of the actress was very successful, but Chambers herself admitted that at first it was painfully difficult for her to undress in front of the camera. A significant plus was the fees that have grown steadily. In parallel, Marilyn starred for men's magazines and ads. Her photos repeatedly fell on glossy covers. Chambers starred long enough, but decisively ended her career when she realised that she had lost her beauty. In 1976, Chambers announced that she was leaving the X-rated industry to pursue other career options. She starred in David Cronenberg's horror film Rabid, appeared in a number of stage productions in Las Vegas, put together a cabaret act as a singer and dancer, and cut a record as the lead singer with a country and western band called Haywire. In 1977, back when David Cronenberg was just an obscure Toronto-based maker of low-budget horror films, he wrote and directed a nasty little psychosexual shocker called Rabid, in which he cast, in the lead role, the adult film actress Marilyn Chambers. It was the first instance of a performer rising out of the seamy swamp of adult entertainment industry and crossing over, without irony, into a mainstream movie. It would also be just about the last. Marilyn plays a young woman who becomes a mutant predator, with a dagger-like thingy that emerges, bloody and vicious, from her armpit, turning everyone it stabs into a rampaging, teeth-gnashing, id-flaunting zombie demon. In Rabid, Chambers, with her wide eyes, come-hit her smile, and cornstalk bearing, makes a disarmingly vivid demon vixen on the loose. Despite the faintly tinny coo of her voice, she was, at least in this role, not a bad actress, perhaps because she identified with the perversity of the movie's sex kitten imagery. By starring in Rabid, Chambers effectively blazed a trail, one that, as it turned out, went cold fairly quickly. At the time she made Rabid, Chambers claimed that she was done with the adult film industry, but just when she thought she was out, it pulled her back in. Of course, the scandal that launched and forever defined her career was, in its singular and bizarre way, the ultimate case of mainstream adult film crossover. Only this was crossover in reverse. The ultimate icon of American purity starring in the ultimate dirty movie became an instant publicity sensation. More than that, however, it became an enduring myth of adult films. That the squeaky clean soap princess, an image that harkened back to the Mad Men early 60s, wasn't what she seemed. And if she wasn't, what did that say about everyone else? The true legacy of Marilyn Chambers, who crossed over before it was fashionable, or even permitted, may be that the lines you cross will forever be defining, even after you've demonstrated that they're not entirely real. In 1980, Chambers made her return to adult movies with Insatiable, in which she played a promising country and western singer, appropriately enough. The film was a box office hit, and several more adult features followed, but Chambers began making softcore R-rated adult comedies and dramas as well, beginning with 1982's Angel of Heat. And by the end of the 1980s she had once again forsaken hardcore adult films for R-rated efforts such as the Marilyn Diaries, Party Incorporated and Bikini Bistro, which found a ready audience on home video and cable television. In 1999, Chambers made a surprise return to adult films when friend and fellow actress Veronica Hart persuaded her to star in Still Insatiable, under the condition that the film depict and endorse safe sex in its erotic scenes. Marilyn moved to LA, where she had a couple of devastating accidents to her legs, even more devastating love affairs, and finally a bout with drugs and alcohol that brought her to the brink of suicide. She joined Alcoholics Anonymous, got sober and met a hard-working trucking company salesman named Bill Taylor, whom she married a few weeks before she returned to Windsor for her court appearance. Chambers died 10 years later, just over a week prior to her 57th birthday. The autopsy and toxicology tests confirmed she had suffered a cerebral hemorrhage and an aneurysm related to heart disease. Toxicology tests showed the presence of the painkiller hydrocodone and the antidepressant citalopram in Chambers' bloodstream, but not in amounts that could have caused her death, coroner's officials said. She was the first crossover adult star. She was the Ivory Snow Girl, and when she decided to make an adult movie, that was big news. But Chambers never realised her dream of starring in mainstream movies. For the next 3 decades she anchored dozens of hard and softcore movies, spanning the entire era of above-ground erotic films. Chambers was the Queen Mum of the adult entertainment industry. If you liked this video, don't forget to give it a thumbs up, subscribe if you are new here, and if you want to support my work, please visit my Patreon page. Now it is your turn. What do you think about the life and legacy of Marilyn Chambers? She was one of the most successful adult film actresses in American history.